Get this working. Too many knobs. Hello. So I've been rushing to get back here. Um, Lots of questions. People have been asking me during the week, so I'm just going to see if this is all working first, which is the quite boring, annoying bit, which they should sort out with their software. It's to give you some kind of notifications that it's all working. I'm going to bring the chat up. So if you're on YouTube or LinkedIn, let me know. Let's see. Some coming through. Chloe, could be just me and you. Hi from Wiltshire. Nice to see you. Yeah, so I've been sorry, I was supposed to do this every sort of once a week, and I'm being absolutely useless at it. But I will get there. I'm getting more organised now. I've been moving around the country. If you look at my Instagram, I've taken possession of a van conversion, which I'm pretty proud of. It took about 3 months to design it, and about 6, 7 months to make the damn thing. So we've been sort of using that to the extent. Yes, I've looked at travelling and going away for a week, but couldn't face the regulations. So the van's fantastic, and I'm hoping to do a few of these sessions from the van. It's called Dora. So have a look at my Instagram. I've basically designed it so that I can get out and actually meet people. And I'm also going to be doing this is a sneak. You heard this here first, but I'm going to be doing like a bit of a van tour. So look out for the details. I'm going to be zigzagging across the UK, meeting people, getting out to talk to people starting businesses, running businesses, and trying to scale their business or buy businesses or finance their business. Whatever you want to come and talk about, get in touch, and maybe we can get together in the van and record one of these or do a podcast. Who knows? We're still working on it. So I've been working on that. We've moved to got an office in London now as well. So it's quite nice to be, between central London and the north. And I've been recruiting. So if you looked on LinkedIn and things like that, I've been recruiting head of growth. So if you are a marketing guru, somebody who wants to focus on growth, basically acquisition, and that's not just selling stuff. It's about building our community as well. But also clearly it is about helping people to understand their tech options. That's what Moblox is out there to do. And we're looking for someone which is pure acquisition. Now that could grow into retention as well and a full marketing role. So that sounds like you or somebody then please get in touch. We've got quite a few interesting applicants that come through. I had a project manager, and we've also hired a front end developer. Front end developers or anyone technical, if you've got children, tell them to learn to code because they're like unicorn, to get hold of. We just hired we've got Jorge and Pascal who are fantastic. So they're on the team now. And we've actually got to meet face to face, which is quite nice in our London office. So if you haven't done it yet, please go to moblox.com. It's there on the screen. I'm getting quite handy at this now. And sign up to my sort of newsletter, basically. And we'll be giving you updates. And what I want to do is build a community of, it's going to be a tight-knit one initially, and then work with you to refine our offering and test some of our software as well. So there'll be and also we want to have like a sort of a closed group at launch of people testing our service as well. So there'll be sort of a content and some sort of how do I put this? A priority access to various things. And if you sign up on Friday, I think it's going to be Thursday now. I was told that Friday is not a good day. I'll be sending out a private newsletter, some thoughts. So I've done a few things this week. I was doing it was a competition almost for British Business Bank. I'm on the board of the UK Government Development Bank. Well, I am currently. It's not going to be for much longer. I'm moving on. And we did the bounce back loans and all the coronavirus loan schemes. So 90 billion into small businesses over the last 18 months. And did a competition. And I got to talk to a chap in Northern Ireland called David. And he asked me an interesting question, actually. Now, this might not mean a lot to some of you, but at some point as you build a business, in one way or another, you've got different routes to market. So one's obviously digital. And whether it's digital or whether it's physical or not, whether it's offline or online, you've got a direct sale. So selling to the customer, you own the customer, you build the customer, and you build a relationship with that customer over time. and you've got indirect. So in the world I come from, indirect is like called a channel. So that could be resellers. On the online world, you probably know it more as affiliates. So they're people that will, sell your service and earn a commission or some kind of a rev share or bounty, whatever it might be. But you don't own the customer. So they probably even build the customer. Sometimes with affiliates, you will build the customer, but you may not own the relationship. And he had a sort of a nascent indirect model, and he was thinking of scaling out a direct model. And the worry was that, do I cannibalize the direct, the indirect business, the channel, the resellers, the affiliates, by going direct? And I said no. Quite simple. I've seen it so many times that you're worried. Now, most people in channels or who are selling other people's services, they're used to the fact that they also sell direct. Now, clearly, you can't undercut them or be cute about it, but it's quite important that you have some connection with the end customer. One, because you're the master of your own destiny. Then you're not relying on channels. In channels, if you're ever thinking about, I've got 100 partners and only 20 are doing anything, that's normal. If you're lucky, it's probably so it's only 10 are doing anything. You get 20% of 80% of your revenue from 20% of your channel, your affiliates, your resellers, whatever you want to call them. And so having that direct relationship with customers and your product means you get feedback. And I'll always talk about, especially in technology, you have a feedback loop. But you can have a bakery, and having a feedback loop about whether your bagels taste any good is a good thing to do, rather than rely on some local person or Deliveroo to flog them for you. You never get any feedback. So I'm a big believer in you should be direct and indirect, and if your channel don't like it, you might lose some of them, but the opportunity is still enormous. And have the same sort of pricing across the board. Don't buy too cute, but don't worry about it too much. And the very few, even technology companies, Microsoft for many years I worked with, and we were resellers of Microsoft selling their software, and suddenly they turn up with Office 365, which was basically most of what we were doing. But the channel went on and evolved and sold other things, and then began to sell Office 365 as well. So don't worry about it. Go to market in as many ways as you possibly can, within reason and with the resources you've got, and don't let anyone tell you any different. And usually your channel will have a hissy fit about it if you say you're going direct, but that's just self-interest. And they should want you to have a direct relationship with some customers at least, so that you have that understanding and that feedback as well. Another question I was asked, and I'll move on to some in the chat here, was Joanne, and she asked me, you know, this is so confusing. So, the idea behind Moblox is I'm building a business where we want to help small businesses, basically, and I mean small businesses, understand technology and modern business tools. So you understand your options, so you can make the right decision about what to buy. And it's so confusing. What you find is that this question was about what's the best or what's the difference between CRM, CVM, sales automation, funnels. You've heard all these acronyms. And it's very complicated, because what you're going to find is that some of the big players, your Salesforces, they've got entire platforms, where they have sort of lots of different sort of partners that have linked into their platform. And it's become less of a product in many ways and more of a platform. Then you've got your kind of HubSpots of the world, where they start doing, small business, CRM, they might call it, sales automation. And you've got even things like support, like move some support now into Zendesk Sales. And what happens is, what's really confusing is that you might think someone's support, someone's sales, someone's sales automation, someone's marketing automation. They all mean the same thing in many ways. But what they all then try and do to grow is add the service of the competitors, or support moves to sales, sales move into support, and so and so. So it is super confusing. And what you need to do is, this is what we're going to be doing, is putting out content to help you really understand what your business needs right now and what it's going to need down the line, not too far down the line, because you don't want to spend too much money, and what's right for your business. And don't worry too much about often the bells and whistles. You can now, you can find sometimes a product that's perfect for you in terms of the main use case, and then it does something else, which is quite helpful. It's not brilliant, but it kind of does the job in terms of what you need. And you can find the best of breed across the board. You might have 3 different things that are piece of software. They're very good at what they do, and you can use APIs to integrate now. So it's almost seamless, and it's almost like one piece of software. And if they don't provide the APIs, the links, which some don't want to, clearly, they want you to buy their new add-on, the upsell. You can use platforms like Zapier, which is, if you haven't used Zapier, go and have a look at it. It allows you to connect different software platforms together quite simply. It's also a drag and drop and just click on things and decide how you want. If I have this software and this happens, what happens in this one over here? And you can basically have actions or data transfer. Got to be careful about that because of various regulations. But that's a really complicated one. So really, really do your homework. Don't just go and ask your mate or ask your accountant about what's the best one for you. Do your homework and use the trials and just see what works for you. And also, a lot of people they get lost into one piece of software, and that's it. It's a be all and end all. And things evolve very quickly, so keep trying new software that's coming out or new features because it's reasonably easy these days to migrate and transfer data. You don't want to, you don't absolutely have to, but it can be done if you think that a new piece of software or a new sort of feature in another piece of software you're already using is particularly good. Right, let's go to these questions here. Hi from Mark. Hi, I was in Cambridge, Mark. I was punting, believe it or not. So we took the van up to Cambridge, camping in living in a field, and we went punting on the river. The best innovation on the river I found in terms of a small business was the chap that pulled up alongside us and had a PIMS punt, basically a bar and a punt. If you don't know what a punt is, it's one of those sort of like imagine Venice, the guys with the poles and the boats. They have those on the river in Cambridge, and you can basically pay what they're called chauffeurs, and they take you along there. So hello from Cambridge. And my dad went to Cambridge. He was at Trinity Hall. I never went to Cambridge, and didn't get anywhere close to it. All right, let's have a look down here about a business question. So thank you for joining, by the way. I never quite know how many people are going to join me. Sometimes I wonder be here myself, but it's fantastic to see people actually turn up and get involved. So if you've got any questions about UK, ideally, it doesn't really matter, but I can share the know-how of anybody, which I'm focused on sort of small businesses, anything really, growing, scaling, financing. I won't have all the answers. Eventually, I'm going to have a team with me that'll have more of the answers. And if I don't know the answer, I'll try and find out. Dubai's in the room. We've got Greg there. So I see quite a few of the investors in Moblocks are from Dubai. I see Chloe here has been stalking me because she knows that the van is called Dora the Explorer. So glad you've seen it, Zoe. The van is fantastic. It's like being a first class seat traveling at an altitude of about 2 feet. And I can work on it on the move. Right. Amber, I'm not sure what your question here, age of 16 or 18. There we go. Seeing as Chloe knows the name of the van. So Chloe, any advice for my 20-year-old first class honours daughter to get a grad prog? You might need to expand on that. I get these questions quite a lot about. I'm going to be quite generic here, Chloe, because people have lots of kids doing lots of different things, and I have some as well. And she's obviously done very, very well to the first class honours. But I think a degree, sadly, and I spent 4 years doing degree, a year at law school, and 2 years doing training to become a lawyer, so 7 years in total. But a degree increasingly is it shows you have the ability to assimilate data and understand, and you have a particular sort of intellect, but it means less and less in time. And I'm a big believer in that. I think we're all going to end up working for ourselves in one way or another within a generation. So if you're 21, by the time you're my ripe old age like me, the world would have changed massively, and we're going into an exponential age where software will write itself. Things are going to change very, very quickly. So the thing to focus on is yes, you stay in school for as long as possible and acquire skills. Acquire, even in the university, you're learning about how to work with people, how to interact, how to learn, how to take a sort of a large amount of data and turn it into some kind of report, an essay, whatever it might be. If it's something more functional, you're learning. So stay in school for as long as possible. But increasingly, you need to be enterprising. And by that, I mean that it doesn't matter who you work for now. You can't be a cog in a wheel and expect to hide somewhere for 3 years. And why the hell would you want to anyway? Life's too short. So I think if you've got children and they're kind of at the age of what GCSE age going forward, and they're asking you about careers advice, then yes, do something path of least resistance. Try and do things that you really, really enjoy. That I don't want to use the word love or passion. Things they really enjoy, and ideally something they're really good at because it's easier. And ideally, they do something they're really good at that they really enjoy. Because I met too many people when I was at law school or working in the city, and they didn't really like their jobs, but they were earning good money and they had a nice mortgage and they got a nice car. And then 10 years later, I bump into them on a tube platform. How are you? And it's exactly the same. I don't really like my job, but I've got a nice place to live. Now I've got children and obligations, and I've got an even bigger car, an even bigger house, even bigger mortgage. And I meet them 10 years, and it goes on like that. You know where I'm going. Life's too short, man. Find something that you're really good at, that you quite enjoy doing actually, and you can develop and be enterprising. Think about in the long run, the gig economy, zero rated contracts, large corporations, even small ones, don't want employees. We want people to come in for a discrete period of time to do a discrete piece of work. Might be a week, might be a day, might be a month, might be 3 years. But that's the way the world's going in terms of the organizational structure. Is the concept of an employee, an FTE, full time employee, someone on the payroll is going to go away. So my view is basically work on your strengths. Don't worry too much about pieces of paper, letterheads with university names at the top of them, and then think about having a business on the side, whether that's something which might be a passion actually that can grow into a business, and learn about what P&L looks like and what a customer relationship is. I did my first business with a paper round when I was 13, but I learned a huge amount from that. So if you're not enterprising, I think at some point you're going to find yourself out in the cold. So that's my advice on that one. I hope that was relevant. Um, Question from Greg here. Great question, actually, Greg. Um, I've made quite a few bad investments, but that's the nature of the beast. Sometimes I've lost quite a lot of money. Okay, I've lost millions of pounds actually. Um, but that's investing. So you have a portfolio. The average portfolio, my Dragon's Den portfolio was just like a venture capital portfolio. You have some absolute flyers. You have some that you kind of get your money back, and some you lose your money. But overall, you're up, and that's what a portfolio is about. The point I think you're making, the point I'd like to come back to, is that the mistake I made, and you can make when you are a sort of blinkered entrepreneur and you really have bet the farm, you put your last slipping dime of your savings into this venture, and you honestly do believe in it, but you perhaps haven't done your homework. You perhaps haven't listened to people or your potential customers, or done the research on your target customers you should have done. So you are sort of you haven't really done the work, but you absolutely sold on it. And then you go out there, you take this product or service out into the world, and that you think the world really needs. And you find, sadly, that in most cases the world doesn't care whether you live or die, essentially, in terms of the business. So you then have to start doing a lot of work on your product market fit. Is it right? And marketing and raising awareness of it. But there comes a point where you know that it isn't working, and you know that you can't fund it, and that you shouldn't really put any more money into it, and that it's not going to work out. And the danger there is, when I was younger and more naive, is that I would chase that rabbit all the way down the hole until I couldn't reverse back out of it. And someone would fill it in for me, and I was a bit stuck. As I got older, it became a bit colder, and you have to realize that sometimes these businesses and ventures. Think of yourself as a scientist, right? You've got a hypothesis that if I pour this liquid into this test tube, into this test tube, this is going to happen. And you do it, and it doesn't happen. So your expected outcome doesn't happen. So you might change the two liquids, but you never get the outcome no matter what you do. And it comes a point where you realize that you're not going to it's not going to happen. And you have to be quite grown up about it and cut your losses. And this can be a really difficult conversation, especially if people have invested in you and you don't want to go and have that conversation. But at the end of the day, you're better off stopping and giving any money you've got back than carrying on. I mean, you saw in the large, it was, what's the name now? Mine's gone blank. The large app that was launched by the one of the ex-heads of Disney and HP. and they launched this app, like a media platform that they thought would be like celebrities on like a TikTok or whatever. It didn't work out. I think they spent about 1 billion of their 1.5 billion, whatever the numbers were, but they stopped and handed back 500 million. And that's, bigger numbers, same idea. Don't chase rabbits down holes. Stop, reverse out, fill it in, move on. Right, let's see what else we've got. Amber, people put money after happiness. They do. Money doesn't make you happy. It just gives you options. That's it. I'm going to go to work my way down again. Hello from Nigeria. Kehinde, is it? Are you pronounced that correctly? Martin, like I said, are you still doing an incubator? I've never done an incubator startup, so I've been involved in them. In some ways, I've been one myself, but not in terms of a formal structure. So I do work with a company called, well, a couple of companies actually, that helps young companies raise finance. So the Startup Accelerator, I'm still involved in that. So that'll help you if you're kind of, you've got some customers, you've got an idea, you've got a product, and you want to evolve it, and you want to raise some finance. If you're not quite ready to raise the finance, you can get onto the Startup Accelerator program. And then when it comes to there's another business after that helps you raise sort of Series A finance. And you've got to be a kind of a B2B software as a service company, UK based, about 70K a month MRR, so reasonably, they're making progress, these businesses. And we go and help them raise their Series A. It's called White Horse Capital. So I am involved at that kind of level, but not really an incubator. Not many incubator models have really worked. I know Wayra, so I know two of the ex CEOs of Wayra, which is Telefonica incubator, and that's seen some great success. But that had a huge amount of capital and the Telefonica network behind it, and also Telefonica in many cases could be a customer as well, which will help kick things off. I mean, it's a great one here from Gerard. We're going back to the question earlier. CX, and what do you mean by CX? What CX software would you recommend? I'm kind of firing these quite quickly today. It's really hard. You can't recommend it. I used to have a business where we used to develop Microsoft Dynamics CRM systems, and CRM is it's not really, it's a platform really. We used to go to customers. I think we did the whole CRM system for Virgin Trains at the time, and some quite large investment funds as well, pension funds almost invested into venture capital funds. And we used to go look at the requirements and the business, and we'd build a system that added the most value for them we possibly could. Now, no matter what they tell you, there are some you can use out of the box, but no matter what they tell you, they all need some work. So the key is, like I was saying earlier, is to don't spend an absolute fortune. Don't fall for the upsells or the cross sells initially. Work out what do you really need. Literally, write down almost your requirements, or talk to somebody that's a bit more technical if you're not, and say, this is what I'm trying to do. Work out what are your requirements, and then go and look at the solutions and see which one how it delivers on your requirements most effectively, most efficiently, and most especially most cost effectively as well. And then start from there. So don't just buy software because you are falling for some clever core marketing. Do it based on your requirements and also on your budget. You may want the all singing and dancing Salesforce integrations, but you can't afford them. And right now, your customer acquisition costs, doesn't support it. And if you're talking about customer experience, then we've used lots of different clickable prototypes. And that's where you talk to developers. We've got developers developing now clickable prototypes, and using different platforms to design our sort of user experience really, and user interface. I'm not sure what you mean by CX, but generally, it doesn't matter what the software is start from your requirements. And if you start there and your budget, you're unlikely to go wrong. All right, what else we got in here? Where are we? Let's have a look. You got any more questions? Actually, I know there are questions here about hello California. So this is a good one as well, given that we're coming up to COP26. Phil, hi, Piers. Do you think environmental businesses and technologies are at last coming of age? So there are two massive issues in the world, really, and I think is he called the king of SPACs, Chamath Palihapitiya, I think, said this. That, and I don't believe it. I don't agree with everything he says, but this one makes sense. There's two big issues in the world. One is inequality, which is absolutely right, and that's on a macro level across continents and geographies, and also within actual countries and even cities and communities. Another one is climate, and you are now the the people that they're never going to solve it really that easily. It's not that easy to do. But the ones that really change the game in terms of climate and environmental protection, there are trillionaires that just don't know it yet. They're sitting there breathing away on something. And they're the people that are really going to change the world. So you can have AI and machine learning. That's going to change the world. You can have genomics. So understanding how we're put together and being able to, you know, resolve disease before they even happen, and also understand disease. You're going to see the combination of sort of biotech and AI, so that artificial intelligence can actually de-risk the sort of development of drugs. So you're not going to go through phase one, phase two, phase three. You saw the Deep Mind, which was actually a UK deep AI business. It was bought by Google. They recently released all this information about how proteins are structured because the AI could work it out, whereas other technologies it will take them literally decades to do it. And they basically put it out into the sort of open source essentially. So if you combine that power, the power of that computing, that software, and biology, that's going to change the world. And the other thing, and AI will also help this as well, is climate change. And I think that Moblocks, we're a B Corp pending, or we're going to be. Want to be a B Corp, and you're building a community there, B Corp organisations that actually want to work with each other. So you're building now a supply chain of B Corps that are all aligned, and they understand that you think like them. And the most important thing I think is that the next wave, the generations of end customers now that are beginning to earn real money. Your millennials are already earning money. Your Gen Zs and beyond, this matters to them. My generation were kind of interested in it a little bit. I grew up with companies greenwashing and a bit of advertising about the picture of a tree or something, whereas people now are not falling for that nonsense. So your end customer now is looking at the provenance of your business, especially if it's foodstuffs. But even if it's a service, tell me about your business and how you put together and your ethos and your brand. I want to know who's behind it. And that's the beauty of small businesses where big businesses can't do this. They can get to know you. They can get to know the people behind the business and how you think, because your brand inevitably is going to reflect you. And large companies just can't do that. They can't have that persona and that direct interaction. But going back to your question, this matters, and people care about the environmental, the sustainability of the companies they're buying things from. And what that means is there's more demand now. Therefore, what you're going to see is more supply of technologies to make sure that businesses are more environmentally or more sustainable. I don't just mean climate; I mean across the board. So it's a kind of I wouldn't call it a vicious circle. It's a very positive one, but this is absolutely where it's going. And if you're not thinking about it, you should be. You should be doing it because you should be doing it anyway. You should be doing your bit. But also because at some point you're going to wake up and your customers are going to be buying things from a competitor that does care. So I think it's really important. I'm scrolling down. Hello, Matt. Glad to have you back. Glad to have people actually listen to my live experience. I am going to do these once a week if it absolutely kills me. I kind of rush back into my dark cupboard. I have to move this sort of dark cupboard around the country with me. It's quite heavy. So I want to keep this look, but sometimes I just can't quite get there or set it up. But I might start doing these from the van as well. So if I sort of appear in looks like a chair on an aeroplane, then I'm in the van. So and then I can take that with me wherever I go. There's one here from Haley, which I haven't read it all yet. Haley, why do you not think bigger businesses can show the people behind the brand like small business owners? So they because there isn't really one person, and the thing about big businesses is that they absolutely are fantastic. Let's face it, some of them at creating brands and creating identity, and especially if they grew from a small business where that identity and that brand kind of went with them. But often I'm talking about more, the more sort of faceless large enterprises where there isn't really one personality attached to them. So, there aren't that many very large companies, Google maybe, but Sergey, do you really think about them when you think of Google anymore? It's very large startups, clearly, where there's some very famous founders. I think Steve Jobs is probably the most. He's not around anymore, but he was probably the most obvious example of that. But take like a lot of the tech companies. The founders kind of get lost. You've got Zuckerberg, that good or bad. But I think that when you're small, what I'm talking about here is that the age of large companies owning markets are over, because what they do have for them, and I did a video on my YouTube channel, which if you go, oh, I haven't got it set up now, but if you go and look at my YouTube channel, it's called the six the six key things a small business should know about working with big business or something like that. And I go through it because I've got lots of experience of this, some good, some bad. And big businesses have got customers, they've got assets, they've got balance sheets, they've got channels to market, they've got brands. There is inherent value. It's very hard to replicate if you're a small business, and that's why lots of them have survived during the pandemic because they've got these balance sheets. Small businesses, though, what they have and the key they have is they're closer to the customer. They can innovate, they can move a lot faster, and they can move with markets. Markets change now on a whim. Consumer markets change because some celebrity, just churned out some random TikTok about something, or they wore something, and a market can move. And if you're a very large company, it is that old adage about the oil tanker. It's very hard for you to sort of do a left turn. The left turn can take you 50 miles. You're a small business, you're on a jet ski, you just flip it round and off you go. So what big companies used to have is assets and infrastructure and technology that you couldn't compete with. Whereas now that technology is very much available to any business, no matter what your size is. That's what the cloud has changed, the software as a service. You can now procure systems, communications, software in ways which you could never do before. And some of the software big companies use, and the most annoying thing, another reason why I started Moblox is this amazes me, is that per head, large companies are using technology more than small businesses, which is nuts. That's not how it should be. And that's because small businesses don't really understand their options. What big companies also have is procurement departments, people that earn a lot of money, looking at the business, going back to what I said earlier, looking at the business needs, looking at the requirements, analyzing them, going out to market, maybe having a tender process where people come and pitch their wares and they then go and choose one. And then, this is the important part with technology, then they deploy it and then they make sure that it's deployed, it's used properly, and that over time, the objective is reached and that use case actually meets their needs. And they actually tick that box. A lot of smaller companies might buy software. It's a bit complicated. You don't really know how to use it. So you stop using it, but you're still paying for it. Or you don't really teach the team how to use it. So you don't extract that value out of it. So I've kind of gone off your point slightly here. But the point I'm coming round to is that you now can almost ignore the infrastructure, the technology, the platforms. You can access it now, for £20 a month as you need it. And you can basically grow with it or shrink it. You can now focus on the brand, the business, the customer, the innovation, the software. They're moving quickly, they're reacting to markets. And that's where you can do things that large companies cannot do. And then you can actually, what people want to know is about who's behind the camera, who's behind the curtain essentially. And you, the founder or the business leader, can be that person and build a brand around you. Now you can be slightly careful building brands around people because people do stupid things sometimes. So, think about that, but make sure you don't. But that, it doesn't work in all cases. If that's what you're thinking, I agree. But you have an advantage that an end customer is going to want to interact with you. Now, I read a book, reading a book, audio book actually, called Influence. Now, fantastic book. Go and read it, or listen to it. It's about the power of community, FOMO, missing out, context. It's about the psychology of selling, really. and why people buy things, and it's fascinating. So small businesses are a huge advantage, but just not really monetize it the way we should be doing. The one here from Denise. Let me make this a bit bigger so I can see. There we go. Hi, Piers. What would you say are the key roles a small business should hire to be part of the team? Okay. I'm doing this now, and hiring people is hard work. It is. I've been going through today actually looking for the head of growth applications myself, and even now I hate sending out those messages saying, thanks for applying, but it's not for us. We're not going to bring you in for interview. I hate doing it, but it's also fascinating. It's fascinating seeing what people do, the way people sort of they kind of sell themselves, their skills, their kind of what I just find it fascinating. People's CVs, and it's hard work, but it's also really, really rewarding. That when you find someone you think is right for the role and you get to meet them and talk to them, and that seems to be the case, and you start building a relationship, and then this week for the first time people have been coming into the office where I've met physically, and I realized they're not all like video conferencing size. One guy's like 6'3", so that's quite interesting, and you get to shake hands with them, and start building a relationship. Now if you're running a small business, and especially if you're growing from like one or two people to three or four or five, your first hires are really, really important, really, really expensive, and they can make or break you. So the point is to approach it, approach hiring with a process. And if you're not very good at it, or you're not very good at interviewing, then get somebody who is. Work out what it is you want to know. Again, it's like the software. What are your requirements? And someone's got to fit the bill and be able to deliver the goods. But most importantly, and I'll come back to the roles in a minute, is do they really fit the culture? And this is quite enterprise, but there's a great thing. Jack Welsh, the former CEO of GE, he's got the Jack Welsh matrix. I've mentioned this before, so I won't cover it too much. But he's got this matrix where you've got people that are very good at what they do and they deliver the goods, keep them. People that are very good at what they do, but they're really annoying, get rid of them. People that are not very good at what they do and they're really annoying, you definitely get rid of them. And people that are not really good at, they're kind of not really fitting, they fit the culture, not really great yet, but they're willing to grow, support them, help them, train them. So you can put people into those four quadrants almost simplistically. Think about that. In terms of key roles, the key role is quite obvious, really. The key roles are, you've got to think about, if I want to grow this business or just run this business so the wheels don't fall off, so operationally, what am I good at and where are my skills gaps? And if I want to go from A to B, you've got to have a plan. What skills do I need? And you've got to look at yourself and be quite, objective about it and say, well, what are the skills gaps? What am I good at? What am I not good at? Now, I naturally am a shoot from the hip kind of person, really. I will meet someone, quite like them. I can do, a lot of the due diligence in my head now because I've got lots of experience, and I can sort of crack on. And but I've been trained though, because I'm actually a qualified lawyer, believe it or not, a venture capital lawyer in the city in the UK. And then I was an investment banker at Credit Suisse First Boston, one of the large investment banks. So I've had the ability to go through a 400-page agreement and found tiny errors that the lawyers missed, or write a very, very complicated financial model. I've had that sort of drilled into me. I've learned those skills. So I've got this ability to sort of shoot from the hip if I need to, but also then be very, very analytical. And the balance of those two works for me. However, like for example, one of my key hires has been a COO, and it's an operations directive, we might call it that. And he's worked with me for 8 years. And what he's going to do is run the day to day in the business, because yes, I can do that. But I'm not really the one to dot the I's and cross the T's, to be honest with you. I'm much better at doing this, or getting out of my van and talking to you and finding out what makes you tick and coming up with a strategy, or on selling, or building a community. That's what excites me. I can do all the detail if I have to, but it is not what I'm best at, to be honest with you. So it's about finding people that support you. And also in a small company, even a very small company, think about governance. Think about, in your boardroom, if it's just you staring at the wall saying, what should I do? That's probably not a good thing. So you might have to pay people, but just think about governance structures, that when you want to make a decision and as you begin to grow, it's important to have objective insight, objective input into your decision making process, because that means that you've got more data. Essentially, it's been sort of inputted into that decision, and it means you're lowering the risk, your operational risk. So, answer your question more succinctly than I've just done is find the people that fill the gaps in your skills, and do not hire, definitely do not hire yourself again. And I mean that in terms of like someone who's just like you, that's a waste of time as well. Make sure, and I'm very passionate about this, that when you are hiring people, that you hire people that are good at what they do in the role, not because they got the same religion, they're the same color, they went to the same school, they grew up in the same town, like the same football team. You're doing yourself a disservice. Whew, my mouth's dry. So this is an interesting one. Ryan. So again, I did a video about how to think it's how to survive and thrive. Go look at my YouTube. Can't remember which one it was. I'll try and find it. And I basically talked about how do you scale yourself. So if you're in that kind of that place where your income is restricted by your time times what you charge for it, it's a very simple formula. Then in that video, I'm not going to go through it all, but in that video, think about the formula. Income is time, hour, day, whatever, times price, your daily rate, your hourly rate, whatever. That's it. So once you run out of units of time, if you can't change your pricing, that's it. You're done. That's your income. Now, I talk about in that video about changing your being efficient to change how much time you've got. Clearly, going back to the earlier question, that can be about hiring people and roles and bringing people on board that are very good at. You should do where you add the most value, and then bring other people on. And it can be expensive, I know, but bring other people on to try and fill the gaps while you're doing what you're very, very good at, which might be selling. It might be front of house in the business. And the second bit I talk about then is the price. So too many small businesses don't do their work on the pricing. It's like, well, this is my price. That's what it's always been. That's what everyone else seems to do, and I can kind of get away with it, and I'm all right. Now, if you've done any economics, you'll know about the price elastic. I can never say this. The price elasticity of demand is that as you increase your price, supply and demand, price goes up, demand goes down, vice versa. And as you increase your price, demand will go down. But overall, if you times one by the other, your income's gone up to the point where your price is so high, actually, it starts to overall impact your income in terms of aggregate amount. So there's a bit of a sort of theory in there, but you might increase your price and lose some customers, but overall, you're making more money. You might be able to, and I'll come back to recurring, I mentioned it earlier, recurring revenue. If you're just selling something for, it's a one-off sale and that's it, you get paid. Think about how you sort of introduce recurring revenue. That makes a huge difference. And all of this stuff in this video, if you go and watch it, is about leverage. So that formula becomes income is price times your price times leverage. And no matter what that number is, the leverage, unless it's negative, your income, you do the maths because you're multiplying them, it goes up. And that's what you've got to think about is, how do I leverage myself? How do I create recurring revenue? How do I maximize my time so I am adding the most value and deriving the most income from what I'm doing? And then how have I really, really thought about my price? And small businesses, and I said this again to somebody today, that I use the example of, I've got a gardener up north and he comes on, does a fantastic job, and I always pay him a little bit more than he's actually asked for. But that's it. I don't hear from him again. He never says to me, "Oh, yeah, how's it going? Send me a photo of the lawn or the hedge. Let me see how it looks. Anything I can do. Do you want any pot plants? I can sell you a yucca. Do you want any plant food for the plants that I've just sold you?" That's it. It's transactional. Don't be transactional. Build a relationship with your customers, and in as nice as a way as possible, sell them other stuff. And too many small businesses forget to do that. All right, let's keep going. No problem, Denise. I'm glad it was helpful. Um, I'll summarize this question. Samir, how do you raise finance for non-tech companies? That's what he could have said. so, so Samir, great question. And you know, having been on the board of British Business Bank and just experience generally, is that one of the big issues around small businesses is raising finance, and this is something in Moblocks. And again, I will put the caption up again. Is please go and join the community moblocks.com. Is finance, and finance is changing. There's lots more opportunities and ways to raise finance, but when you're raising finance, you've got to be realistic. So I probably said in all of these live chats, don't try and push a round peg through a square hole. You might just stuff it through an octagonal hole if you're lucky. Square's not going to happen. So the first thing about raising finances, and I keep referring to my YouTube channel here, but go and look at my YouTube channel. There's a playlist on there about how to scale your business, and a couple of videos about raising finance for small businesses, and also non-tech. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me what you're doing. But the point is, have a plan, and it depends what kind of finance you're going to raise. So I've got another video about raising money from your family and friends, from angels, from VCs, and it kind of gets more complicated, more time consuming, and need to be more prepared and have done more work as you move out from the center to the more institutional finance. But essentially, you need to have a plan, and then you've got to go and you've got to go and ask people that invest in your kind of situation. So there's no point giving the extreme example, having a crazy idea in the shower, which may or may not fly, and then ringing up or trying to email the head of some enormous West Coast tech fund, and that will only put at least $10-20 million to work, otherwise they won't get out of bed. You're wasting your time. You've got to think about, if you're a property business, who invests in property, who invests in your kind of property business, who invests, is it equity, is it debt, is it mezzanine, is it development finance, is it institutional, is it a buy to let? Make sure, just like when you're trying to sell a product, that there's a fit between you and the finance provider. If you're not, number one, you won't get the money. You're wasting your time. But the other thing is, if you think you might, then it can be soul destroying, knocking on all of those doors. So raising finance is about having a plan, doing your homework, making sure it holds water, understanding the financial market. And you can go to the British Business Bank website. Actually, they've got a finance answer hub there where you can actually answer, I think, 6 questions, and it'll tell you what kind of finance you should be raising. You can't raise debt finance if you've got no revenue, got no profit, no cash flow, and no assets. Just like a mortgage on a house. I've probably said this in every live chat as well. Is when you buy a house, you want to know, have you got an income? Can you afford to pay the mortgage every month? And if you don't pay the mortgage, you put some equity in, they'll take the house off you. That's the asset. And if you're doing asset finance, they want to know what assets have you got to leverage against. So you can almost understand most commercial finance almost by understanding a mortgage. Is kind of all in there. So if you're trying to raise equity, then if you raise equity for friends and family and they don't really care if they get their money back, that's fine. If you raise money from institutional investors or angel investors, they want an exit. They want you to sell the business, or maybe buy them out, worst case, but sell the business or list it on the stock market. So they've got publicly quoted shares. They can then sell and get their money back. And ideally, they want 3 to 30x. That's what they're expecting from you. So again, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, should I raise money from angel investors? But I don't want to lose control and I don't really want to sell the business." You're wasting your time. There's no point talking to them. So understand your business, what you're trying to do, how you're going to grow it, what kind of finance is applicable, and then go and talk to those people. And if you can't get through the door, because often you might not have the social capital, the networks, and find someone who does. And if that means some kind of professional advisor, then make sure you don't get fleeced on the way. But that can be a good thing because they know where the money is. But again, you'd be wasting your time paying a professional advisor. They'll take the money off you to try and raise finance from sources that are not applicable. Was that helpful, I hope? Paul, these things like, I mean, I've been working doing competition at the moment with Simply Business, actually. They do sort of small business insurance. So you can start with the basics with places like that. But it sounds like yours is more complicated. And, you can spend hours worrying about this and trying to work it out, especially if it's important to your business. And if it's a regulatory issue where you're supposed to have this insurance in place, and that, going back to my point earlier about income is time times the price you charge times the leverage. This isn't a good use of your time. So my advice is you go and find, or ideally have one recommended, an insurance broker or somebody that actually knows what they're talking about, and they will look at your business. Make sure again, don't make sure they're not just trying to create a big consultancy project to fleece you, but they'll look at your business very quickly and they'll know the answer, and then get them to recommend the insurance you should need. Then do some homework on that, some due diligence. Clearly, get two brokers maybe, and try not to pay them until they come up with a solution. But that's not a good use of your time. Is go and find someone that understands it and is an expert, and get them to do the work and come back to you. And I think you can get lost in too much of that detail rather than running your business. If that sounds a bit harsh, let me know in the chat. But just pay someone to do it, man. Rattling through these now. So John Baxendale, I'm trying to get the gender balance right. If not, let me know. So John, I see Liam's has posted him the link to Moblocks. Thank you for that. John, what's the best way to recognize your own skill set and be realistic? Very, very hard to do it yourself. You need someone to almost tell you. Now, you can go online. Actually, it's quite interesting. It's worth doing and do some of these personality tests. And I've done a few, and the outcome wasn't surprising. But I've done a few, and they're quite different, and different source, different sort of IP, underlying IP, the way they calculate it, and they all come out in a similar vein, which wouldn't really surprise you. So you might know who you think you are, but I think in business, it's good to have an external view. So I'm not talking here about going paying some flipping, doing some psychometric test or getting a psychologist in. I'm talking about people that know you and people that don't know you. Talk to them, get an objective view, and that's why it's important sometimes to have people involved in your business. And it might be a board, might be a mentor, might be a non-exec director, depending on whether you can afford it, whether you need it, or just have somebody that can, like a coach, coaches, that sees you playing and can look at, and they've got some experience of how it should be done, and they look at you playing and think, well, you're good at this, you're not very good at that, you need to work on this, and they give you that feedback. And then hopefully a lot of entrepreneurs don't, you listen to it, because a lot of people think that they've got all the answers, and I've suffered from that in the past. But now I'm the complete opposite. I probably reach out to my non-exec directors probably more often than they want me to, because people often think I've got all the answers, and I just have not even close. So I'll reach out all the time, thinking, "What do you think of this? What do you think of that?" I want some kind of governance structure, and and I'm aware of what I'm good at and what I'm not good at now, and I make sure that I've got people around me and people providing feedback. That as that changes over time, because it will, I get better at some things, I get less interested in others, and I get the constant feedback. So it's really, really important, I think, to have an objective mirror, so you can look at yourself and really, understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. Because if you don't, sometimes you can find out too late. I'll show Liam something there. Thank you for that. Add 2020. Are you a bot? Anyway, bot. What This is a good question: is what daily routines and habits do you have that keep you sharp and motivated, like waking up at set time, morning run? Whew. Now, during COVID, I lost the plot on this. I have to say, I was sort of between London and the north, and very much in the north. My father passed away, and I was in a very good place actually, and I just lost the plot. I didn't have a routine. I'm a big believer in some routine, especially in the mornings, and some discipline. That's quite important. And I didn't have any. So now and I'm, so this Monday, right? I was thinking, right, let's do this. I'm going to go to the new office. I've got a 10-mile commute, got the bike. I'm going to ride in. I'm trying to work out. I'm going to put the bike there. I'm going to go to the office. I'm going to go to the gym. I had it all worked out in my head. Get on my bike. I'm 2.5 miles in, and I snap my rear mech hanger. Might mean nothing to you if you don't ride bikes, but all the gears at the back, the little derailleur. You've got a road bike that snapped off, caught in my spokes. That was the end of it. Bike's in a taxi. I'm in the office. Can't get the spare parts. Didn't make it to the gym, and that was the start to my week. So, however, I am trying to get up about 7 a.m., probably 6:30 now actually, because I'm a bit of a long commute. Probably have a rehydrate, have an espresso, 10-mile commute, go to the gym for an hour, no more than an hour, have a shower, freshen up, go to the office. I don't particularly tend to like eat breakfast. Probably first time I'm going to eat is probably midday, and then from there on, just try and be sensible about it. And in the evenings, I've got a 10-mile commute back, so I'm doing 20 miles a day on a bike, reasonably hilly because I'm going sort of through Highgate in North London. So I'm burning some calories there. I'm not going to try and eat too much. During COVID, you just get bored. You get comfort eating. I'm probably 10 kilograms heavier than I need to. So I'm all over this. So I'm glad you've pointed it out. But you should have a routine, I think, especially in the mornings, just to get up and get stuff done. And you can fall out of it. I'm not as ignorant to people about it that get up at 5 a.m. and do something crazy, jumping up, in bath of cold water. Not interested. Um, but I think having that routine just to get you going and make you efficient, so that by midday you've actually done something. It's very easy just to, by 11 o'clock in the morning, you haven't really done much, and that's not a good thing because that's an important part of the day. And then go to bed earlier and get some sleep. Starting karting. I got refused for a loan from the British Business Bank recently because of the Coinbase entries in my bank statements. Do you think it's unfair? What's your position on crypto? So I can't really comment on British Business Bank because I think I'm still a legal director of it. And also, British Business Bank doesn't do loans. British Business Bank has been underwriting loans or providing guarantees to providers of loans such as high street banks and some of the fintechs as well. So don't confuse that. British Business Bank it's a source of capital in this case from the government, and it does not make the investment decision. It has what they call delivery partners, and they range from fintechs, to all the sort of usual suspect high street banks, and quite a wide range actually. They try to make sure that the capital is available from lots of different sources. So if you're talking about Coinbase and crypto, then you're probably talking about banks like HSBC, NatWest maybe, and they've been clamping down recently on, and you can talk about this for hours actually, and they've been clamping down recently on people that have been depositing funds onto crypto exchanges. So Coinbase is a good example, Binance is another one, it's Kraken, there's quite a few of them. Some of them are regulated. I think Kraken's regulated, Coinbase is regulated, Binance isn't. So there's some there, but they really don't like. And you'll talk to people in the crypto universe. They'll be saying, "Well, the banks don't mind you bringing the money out of the exchange and depositing in the banks." And the theory there is that crypto is a massive threat, especially decentralized finance. So centralized finance is where there's an institution, a bank, and people control that money. And there's basically a board of directors deciding what happens. Whereas decentralized finance it's basically software and protocols deciding how you get your money, how the interest is paid, how it's transferred. There's no decision maker. It's kind of trustless. You don't need to trust anybody. I'm a big believer in decentralized finance. I think that is going to change the world in many ways. I think we are in decentralized finance and crypto generally where we were on the internet in about 2001. And I'm not quite sure whether we're pre or post the crash, but either way, if you zoom out now and look at the share price of Amazon in 1997 and whenever it sort of took a bit of a hit in 2000, whatever it was, you probably thought, what a mess. You look at it now, if you invested in a couple of $1,000s or pounds then, you'd be doing very, very well. So I think that's where we are. I think crypto has got a long, long way to go. There's going to be a period of regulation. It's got a lot of FUD, fear, uncertainty, of doubt. But I think the genie is out of the bottle, the cat is out of the bag, and it can create too much value and has already. Large institutions are now playing. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. They're trying to create ETFs, funds that are basically you can buy shares in whole lots of cryptocurrency. So I've got a portfolio. It's I'm a hodler. I don't really. It's all locked away in cold storage, so I can't trade it. I'm not interested. Just hanging on to it. If you can't hold crypto for at least 5 years, I'm not giving any investment advice here. You can't hold it for 5 years. 3 years, don't really invest in it. Probably no more than 5% of your liquid net worth. To be honest with you, it can be seen as a uncorrelated hedge against the world if things go get hairy or equities take a hit. So the banks are having a bit of crackdown. My advice to you is is don't use those banks to move money onto crypto exchanges. So, just move your money from bank A that doesn't like crypto exchanges to a bank that actually sells crypto, like, I don't know, Revolut, good example, and then move the money from Revolut onto the exchanges. They really don't care. There's the answer to your problem. Hope that was useful. Right, we'll do one or two more. I know I've still got a drink. Got dry mouth now. Next, Ashka, next time I'm online, you'll ask some questions. I'm not offended. I'm absolutely super pleased you're actually here at all, to be quite frank. So that's great. Feel free to come back and ask questions. Now, this is going to make my day. Stolas, if that's how you pronounce it. I started a business after following your course, and you got one client. Just want to say thanks. Fantastic. So I'm not gonna flog my course, right? That's not my bag. But I was like frustrated about how small businesses and people ask me the same questions all the time. So I thought, a bit like my videos, I thought I'll make a course. So I made this course. I thought I'll do a few videos. I'm mainly retentive. It ended up being 76 lessons over 10 and a half hours, from everything from what legal structure should your business take, to how do you hire people, to marketing, to financing. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle, basically. And you can still buy the course. It's started.pearsley.com if you wanted to. But it's just fantastic. I don't really plug it, to be honest with you. I think that when I launch Moblox, that'd be one of the things that people probably get as part of the package. But it's fantastic to see, because I put a huge amount of work into that, and blood, sweat, and tears. It was flipping hard work. That people are actually, they've bought it, or maybe you got it in a freebie offer. I'm not sure, and you've actually used it, and it's made a difference, because that's what all this is about. Thank you. I'm great to hear that, Stolas. Thank you. Yeah, Samir. So my next 3 years are to. I'm in London now, so I can see with more of my daughters. But my focus from a business perspective is, where is it? It's here. It's there. It's here. It's there. Back to front. It's here. It's Moblox. So I want to build a business that changes the game in the ways in which small businesses are supported to adopt, embrace technology and tools, so they're more successful. And we're going to be on their side, and we're going to produce content, and we're going to disrupt this ridiculous, old-fashioned, stuck in the 1990s channel of people that are flogging small businesses technology, telecoms, mobile, and solutions that they don't need at a price they shouldn't be paying. I'm going to build a community and a marketplace of curated services where you can come, and eventually you'll be able to run your entire business on the Moblox platform. That's what I'm going to do. That's going to take more than 3 years, to be quite frank. But for the next 3 years, that's what I'm doing. So hopefully, I'm hoping that, let's face it, the reasons I'm doing this, I'm hoping that some of you at some point will like what we're doing and become customers. Starting carting, a big bag of Ada. Yeah, I've got some Ada. I'm not sure about one, but yeah, again, horses for courses. It's got to be part of a portfolio of crypto. Right, I try and keep these to an hour. Is there any more questions here? Any more burning questions anyone's got? I'm just scrolling through. I've covered most of the. Oh, there's a quick one. Back to Ad 2020, the bot. Um, how do you find a career you like? I work internal audit, I like my job. Well, A, leave your job. If you don't like internal audit, life's too short. Don't leave before you get another job if you need the money, clearly. But just don't be one of those people I mentioned earlier where I meet them every 10 years on a cheap platform, and they're still complaining about the same job that they hate. And all they've got is more liabilities and more obligations. And then before you know it, you're dead. So and I don't know how old you are, but if you're young, if you're in your 20s, take risk, do stuff. Before you've got obligations, that's the time to go absolutely bonkers. You're 30, I'm being generalizing now, right? But you're 30, you want to build something. In the 40s, 50s, you want to try and enjoy it a bit. But if you're sort of young and you're coming out of uni, or you didn't go to university, but you're just deciding what to do, is try stuff, find what you're good at. That's the first thing, actually. That's the path of least resistance. And hopefully, what you're good at, you enjoy doing, And even better is something you can get paid reasonably well for. And even if you can't, go look at my video about leverage, about the price, the time, and the leverage, and work out how can you maximize your income doing that thing that you're good at, that you enjoy doing. And don't worry about anyone tells you about what you should be doing or what they think you should be doing. Don't worry about any of that. You live your own life and find the find the thing you're going to spend most of your life doing, and it's something you enjoy. I'm not going to go talk about find your passion, because sometimes what you do is hard work, and be prepared to work hard. But I think that you can work a lot harder doing something you enjoy, and you're more likely to be successful, because success is, no matter what they tell you on Instagram, is very much correlated with the amount of blood, sweat, and tears you put into it. And I'm going to leave it there for tonight. Appreciate you all joining. Thank you very much again. Please do go and sign up at moblocks.com and follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's the same handle. And look out for information about the van tour. And I'll try and be back here next week. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.